The Arizona sun had been merciless all day, baking the red dirt until it cracked and shimmered like broken glass. By the time the wagon rolled up the long ridge toward Carson Ranch, the heat had begun to fade, but the air still held that desert tension, something restless, dry, waiting. Eli Carson leaned against the corral fence, one boot resting on the lower rail, a length of straw hanging from his mouth. He was a tall man, broad across the shoulders, his shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows and his skin brown deep from the sun. His gray-blue eyes watched the horizon the way some men watched the sea, like it could either save him or swallow him whole. He heard the wagon before he saw it, a distant rattle of wheels and rowdy laughter. His jaw tightened. No one came this far out without reason, and laughter rarely meant good news. The wagon drew close, 4 men riding in the back, dust rising around them. He recognized them from Dry Creek, the town 2 days' ride east. Trouble usually followed them like flies. "Evenin', Carson," one called, jumping down before the wagon even stopped. "Brought you something special." Eli straightened. "Don't need anything," he said flatly. "Oh, this ain't just anything," another man said, tugging at the back tarp. "This here's a peace offering from them folks up north. You been complainin' 'bout Apache raids, right? Well, figured we'd fix that." The tarp dropped, and a woman stepped forward. Her hands were bound, wrists raw from the rope. Her long black hair had come loose from its braids, wind-tangled and heavy against her shoulders. Her eyes, dark, calm, and steady, did not flinch. She couldn't have been more than 25. She wore a simple deerskin dress, torn at the sides, her bare feet coated in dust. Eli's face hardened. "What's this supposed to be?" The men laughed. They said this one was from the Apache village near the canyon. "Thought maybe if one of 'em settled here with you, they'd leave the rest of us alone." "A joke, Carson. You always said you needed company out here." Eli didn't move. His hand slid from the fence to his belt, resting near his revolver, not to draw, but to remind them he wasn't amused. "Untie her," he said. The laughter faltered. "Come on, Eli, don't spoil the fun." He stepped closer, voice calm but sharp enough to cut. "I said untie her." The biggest of them hesitated, then shrugged and sliced the rope. The woman flexed her wrists but didn't step away. She stood there, still as stone, her eyes fixed on Eli. The men muttered among themselves, uneasy now. "You're welcome," one sneered, climbing back on the wagon. "Enjoy your gift, rancher." Dust rose as they rode off, leaving only silence behind. Eli turned to the woman. "You got a name?" Her lips parted slightly before she answered. "Naya." Her accent was soft but firm, her voice carrying a quiet strength. He nodded. "You hungry?" She hesitated, then gave a single, careful nod. "Come on," he said. "I'll get you water." She followed him across the dry yard toward the ranch house, a squat, lonely building of wood and stone, its porch sagging, its windows dusty. Inside, it smelled of smoke, leather, and the faint sweetness of coffee gone cold. Eli poured her a cup of water from the clay jug and handed it to her. She took it with both hands, drinking slow, deliberate sips. "They said," she began quietly, "I belong to you now." Eli shook his head. "No one belongs to anyone out here." Her dark eyes studied him, searching for mockery, but finding none. "Then why help me?" He looked toward the window, where the last streaks of sun were fading behind the canyon. "Because I'm not like them." Naya's expression softened, just slightly. She set the cup down and spoke again, this time with something deeper in her tone. "They left me here as a joke. He met her eyes. Then the joke's on them. The silence stretched, heavy but not hostile. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the scent of rain. Naya drew closer to the fire and said quietly, "We are alone now." Eli nodded. "Looks that way." "Then," she said, her voice low and steady, "let us do what is necessary." He frowned slightly, not yet sure what she meant. But the weight in her words stayed with him, long after the fire crackled low and the desert went dark. Morning came slow and soft, the kind of dawn that creeps rather than breaks. Pale gold light spread across the desert, catching on the red cliffs and the thin curls of smoke rising from the ranch chimney. The storm that had threatened last night had passed, leaving the air sharp and cool. Eli Carson stepped out onto the porch, pulling his shirt tighter against the chill. The world was still. No wind, no sound except the distant call of a hawk. He could smell coffee brewing, faint but steady, from inside. That was new. He hadn't smelled that at dawn in months. Inside, Naya moved quietly, tending the small fire she'd built in the hearth. Her hair was tied back now with a strip of cloth, her movements smooth and deliberate. She poured the coffee into a tin cup, handed it to him without a word, then turned back to the skillet where she was warming bits of dried meat. "You're up early," Eli said, taking the cup. Naya didn't look up. The fire needed wood. He leaned against the doorframe. "You don't have to do that." "I know." She looked up at him then, and there was no defiance in her tone, just simple truth. "But if I stay, I work." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Fair enough." They ate in silence. The ranch around them felt different somehow, still empty, but no longer hollow. Her presence changed the sound of the wind, the rhythm of the day. She moved like someone used to surviving, someone who'd learned to find calm even in hard places. After breakfast, she followed him outside. He expected her to stay near the porch, maybe by the firewood pile. Instead, she walked with him to the corral. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Helping," she said simply, lifting a bucket of water to the trough. He almost smiled. "You don't even know what needs fixing." She tilted her head, eyes catching the morning light. "Then you tell me." So he did. They mended the fence together, her smaller hands quick and precise as she held the wire steady while he nailed it into place. The sun climbed higher, burning away the coolness. Sweat traced down the back of his neck. Dust clung to her dress. Neither complained. At midday, she paused, looking toward the horizon. "Your land is large," she said. "Too large for one man," Eli replied. "Too quiet, too." Naya gave a small smile. "Quiet can be a friend. If you listen, the land talks." He glanced at her. "And what's it saying now?" She turned her face to the wind. "That you are lonely, and that I am not afraid." Her words caught him off guard. For a moment, he couldn't think of anything to say. Then he cleared his throat and adjusted his hat. "You read the land better than most." They returned to the house as the sun dipped low again. The day's work had worn them both down, but the silence between them had softened, less like distance, more like peace. When evening came, they sat by the fire again. Coyotes cried somewhere out in the sagebrush, and the smell of wood smoke filled the room. Eli looked into the flames. "You could leave tomorrow," he said quietly. "I wouldn't stop you." Naya watched the firelight flicker across his face. "And go where?" He shrugged. "Wherever you want. You don't owe me anything." Her gaze held his, steady and calm. "I do not owe you. But perhaps I choose to stay." The air between them grew still. She leaned forward slightly, her voice low and deliberate. "When I said, Let us do what is necessary. I did not mean what those men thought. I meant survival. Two alone can live where one cannot. Eli nodded slowly. That's truth. Naya looked out the window toward the vast, starlit desert. Then tomorrow, we build something that lasts. He studied her, seeing not the frightened captive those men had brought, but a woman with the kind of quiet strength that could weather any storm. Outside, the night deepened, stars bright and cold above the open plains. Inside, two strangers shared a silence that no longer felt like emptiness. For the first time in years, Eli felt something close to hope. Not the wild kind that burned quick and bright, but the steady kind that could grow roots deep into dry earth. As the fire burned low, Naya spoke once more, her tone soft but certain. We are alone, she said. But alone does not mean lost. Eli nodded, his voice almost a whisper. Not anymore. And with that, the desert night wrapped around them, vast, endless, and alive with the quiet promise of something beginning.